got the wonderful Jeanette Okwu, who is had years and years of experience in influencer marketing. What she doesn't know, nobody knows. And so, welcome, Jeanette.
Thank you. Thank you for being here, Gordon. This is an absolute pleasure.
And Jeanette's been following our podcast actually for quite some time. So,
I think I've listened to every single episode,
have you
and
really?
I did. Actually, I have listened to a couple more than once
Have
because
you?
I think I'm using podcasts as research virtual papers. I go back because there's so much knowledge in there
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
that one can always refer to.
No, absolutely. It's very kind of you. So tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, so I am born and bred in Germany. Not just in Germany. I grew up behind the Iron Curtain, so I spent part of my youth in East Germany. And when the wall fell, we were swept over to the west side, and I wanted to fulfill my lifelong dream up to that point and become a journalist. And that's what I did. I started as a radio host, then a TV presenter, then a bureau chief, and an executive producer of a lifestyle TV show. And then, because of another man, I ended up in New York. Spent 20 years in the United States and started getting in touch with social media and influencer marketing fairly early on, before 2010. And they got me at social, and there was no turning back from there. So I've helped numerous brands in terms of influencers. One notable one is Jaguar Landrover. I was lucky enough to conceive and implement the global influencer strategy in 24 markets, which is an experience that I do not want to miss. So, how do you create a global strategy that works for a global brand as an umbrella, but also for local markets,
Mm.
including their nuances? And I think you had I heard one podcast with somebody who was talking about toolkits. So those toolkits were basically our lifeline into markets, to help marketers in the market with this back then really new discipline, to lean on something that is brand approved, brand safe, but also give you the freedom within your framework.
Super, super. So now your company is how many people in your company? How many have you got? Tell us a little bit about the company
I
today.
think we're now, I think we're 20. Yeah, we're 20 people.
Yeah, yeah.
Dispersed, virtual. So this whole virtual thing and working from home and working via computer is no new to me, not new to me. I've been doing this for years, having taken care of all these people in various markets, but also our company is dispersed throughout Europe, even with a little satellite office in the US.
Mm.
So we're used to this.
So, I mean, just picking up on what you said there, I think it's really fascinating because so often brands want to reach new markets, and perhaps even COVID has helped us realize that we're actually all a lot closer than we are. If you look at other forms of advertising like billboard, it tends to be very country specific, doesn't it? Whereas influencer marketing has got this global reach, but there are certain nuances that you do have to consider in these more localized markets. So, what's your perspective on that?
Yeah, I think when it comes to local specifics, I'm thinking, if as an example, a British brand who is young and dynamic, but also has an audience in the Middle East. You really do need to make sure that you adhere to their local nuances. When it comes to simple things that are very normal for us here in the Western world, like alcohol or mini skirts or showing an arm or something like that. Just from a brand perspective,
Mm.
that you create something or have something created with an influencer that doesn't break cultural rules.
Absolutely, absolutely. And have you had examples of that?
Um, yes, but I don't think I want I want to name names. I think it would be unfair.
But of course, sometimes this is another reason why it's so important to educate brands about, working with professional influencer agencies or platforms or people that know and understand these issues, because you can so easily get into hot water if you do things wrong. And of course, it's not just a mistake that's an individual sees; it can just blow up, can't it, on social media?
I totally agree with you. And it's not just working with professional agencies or consultants, it's also working with professional influencers, right?
Sure.
So in the term influencer is so enticing because you're showcasing right in front of your very eye an entire profession uh, you know coming to life, which is very appealing for a generation that may be a little bit lost, right? And this looks like the very shiny thing to do. That's why we have already some universities teaching influencer marketing, etc. But also it becomes so easy to say, okay, I would like to be like influencer A, B, or C. That's what I want to do, which I personally think is the wrong approach. Because if you want to be, and I'm not saying influencer, I'm saying content creator with purpose, because you need to be driven by telling the audience something that comes from within,
Mm,
and not something that you put on in order to become somebody like somebody else
mm,
on any social channel, right?
mm,
So because being an influencer is a very, very, very hard job. It is a lonely job. You need to be meticulous. It is a creative job where sometimes you might be not very inspired to create content and have to do it anyway. COVID has hit them all very hard, so they needed to pivot, and you need to be really meticulous. I've heard, I think, the other day, one content creator saying that they're so picky about their content that they have to reshoot the same thing like 30 times, and then it still wasn't right because there was something off on it. So that's what you need to keep in mind if you want to be an influencer, that it's not, fame doesn't lay around on the streets. On the other hand, if you are a brand, just hiring an influencer, giving them some brand messages and letting it sit and thinking this will fly, that's not the case.
mm.
The market is young. The marketing discipline is very, very young, but there is a method to the madness. It has evolved tremendously in a very, very short time.
No, I agree, and obviously that some of the things that the BCMA are taking very seriously is trying to educate that towards what we believe is professionalism throughout the sector. Um,
It's so necessary. It's
yeah,
so necessary.
yeah,
And even the people who are very well versed and expert in it, to me, it's daily learning is the norm. It's just
mm,
something new coming out. You almost have a fear of missing out of
yeah.
when you open up your computer.
On that note, because you've worked with a lot of influencers over the years, what would you say the attributes are of a professional influencer are or ought to be? What are the things that you look for that stand out?
Um, Reliability, being professional, um, keeping your timelines, and communicate. Just very recently working on a campaign, we were very excited to lock an influencer in that we wanted to work with. Um, had a contract, which you need to have to make, to have both ends being taken care of, because in the end, everybody needs to walk away happy. Um, we made a revision to the contract like she wanted, doesn't respond anymore. And you have put in so much energy and time to finalize the working relationship, there's a posting timeline, and now we need to look for a replacement. So this is the day-to-day nitty gritty grind that, clients on the brand side sometimes don't understand that, it's always best to have backups, but when the backups happen, there's still a timeline attached to that.
Of course. Do you think influencers should be graded then, in terms of their success criteria, their reliability, all of these other things?
I think that the more the market develops, the more tech solutions, or even just a spreadsheet, helps to make notes on people that you've worked with. When there's a new campaign coming up or a new project, you go into your already existing pool. If you have some person in there, they may have worked wonders for the brand, but if they are unreliable, if they are a diva or have no respect, then I wouldn't work with that person anymore, because I know it'll cost me so much time / money
Quite.
to put up with that.
Yeah, of course. So, what's your vision for a really a professional influencer marketing industry? What would you like to see happen?
That's my favorite topic. We've seen already some movement in some markets in terms of unification of influencers from the creator side. We have wonderful organizations like yours. We have governing bodies that look at everything from an advertorial point of view. For me personally, I don't want to call it a crusade, but I'm really keen on, and this is something that I want to develop over the next years, to bring my colleagues, and I don't see them as competitors at all. I see them really as colleagues that I would love to work together, or have them join a force where we can also establish best practices within the industry, and basically work from one page with all the other organizations, government bodies, etc., which entails, like you do, educational parts. So basically not seeing each other as competitors, but rather as companions with an influence with an industry that has so much potential.
No, I agree, and I think, to be honest, education still remains at the heart of this, not only from within, but actually amongst organizations and brands. I always think sometimes a little knowledge is dangerous. Because then, with a little knowledge, you sometimes can make mistakes, whereas actually there's tons and tons of experts out there that can help organizations. I was at a conference actually a year back, and somebody said to me there that they literally didn't even know that there were influencer platforms or agencies. They literally just went on to Instagram and just spent weeks trying to find out suitable influencers or content creators for their brands. I was amazed how long he said it took him. And when I said to him that actually there are sourcing tools to make that so much easier, that is bang on profile to your brand,
Yeah,
he was aghast. So I still think there's a lot that we can do.
yeah. I think you'd be surprised, because I see this every day. We live a little bit in a bubble where we think, but what, everybody must know. This is this is common knowledge. No,
Sure.
it is not. We have the lightning rod brands that do this now for years, on a big scale. But then there are so many brands, even big ones, that are very traditional, and they can't wrap their head around what this influencer thing is, really. All they think like is, because the industry, in of fashion and the beauty industry are so overwhelmingly present on those social channels. They think it's all about that, where in fact it can be, uh, DIY gardening, or it can
It could be
be,
fly
I
fishing,
don't
couldn't
know,
it? Could be fly
fly
fishing.
fishing.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. Or the B2B market, right? It's, you might not want to call that influencer, because then those people who are influencing other people from within their own category, they would like to call themselves maybe thought leader
Mm.
or industry leaders or something like that. But in reality, it comes down to the bottom of it. It is the same. Even the word influencer, you can pick a name. It's still that one has basically cemented itself into common knowledge, but it could be any of those words that describe somebody with some heft.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, absolutely. So, what? A couple of more questions. First of all, I wanted to ask you what has been your standout influencer campaign of the last 12 months? The one that for you has really jumped out.
Uh, I I don't know if it's the last 12 months, but the one that I'm always citing was the relaunch of Dior's Miss Dior parfum. That one, to me, hands down, was conceived and played out in various markets brilliantly, starting with the ambassador halo video. The next level is macro influencers interpreting that halo video and the theme, what would you do for love? And then even going lower to micro influencers, 30 to 80K followers, interpreting their versions of it, and not stopping there, but also going down to the retail level and incentivizing salespeople and people who went actually and bought the product, um, sharing their content, mobilizing their nano audience.
Mm.
That to me was brilliant. And if
Mhm.
anybody could keep in mind that that's how you can, in a very simple way, layer a, a campaign or an activity, you're already halfway there.
Mm. So what you just said there is an interesting example of multi-level individuals, right from the major star, right the way down through all the way through the macro, the micro, the nano, and indeed retail assistants. And of course, consumers now, regular consumers are now becoming of interest, aren't they, with these brand ambassador programs as well. So that's interesting to hear. So then, my final question, Jeanette, has got to be, which I'm asking everybody now:
I'm scared now.
who who influences you?
um, Definitely my husband. In a good way. In an from an industry perspective, I think it's Kiana from the American Influencer Council. That
Okay.
girl has so much knowledge. I think we probably can, do this, wake her up in the middle of the night, ask her a question, and she just would spit it out.
Yeah.
I also think that she's very approachable. She has a vision, is on a mission, and she is getting things done
Mm.
for creators. And, if I take her as an example, I can only try to live up to do the same from the industry perspective.
Yeah. Well, that's fantastic. It's lovely to hear, and lovely to talk to you as well. So thank you so much for our great little chat today, and I wish you well for the future.